Hey guys, welcome to another Facebook Live. This is episode 6, and today I'm talking all about the gut. So, the gut is a big buzzword nowadays in the health world for a lot of reasons. There's been a lot of research into the gut and the microbiome over the last 10 or 15 years, particularly since the Human Genome Project, which mapped the human genome, which has also looked at mapping a lot of the genes of the bacterial species that live within our gut. But so when I'm talking about the gut, I'm talking about the whole tube, pretty much from your mouth to your anus. And when I'm talking about the microbiome, I'm talking about the bacteria that live within that tube. In the average human gut, there are 2 kilograms of bacteria that are generally beneficial for us, or at least they should be. The problem is that a lot of the bacteria that grow in there nowadays aren't beneficial. So in a healthy gut, there should be about 85% beneficial bacteria and about 15% pathogenic. The difference is that the beneficial bacteria will eat things in our food, particularly cellulose, which we can't digest, and turn it into nutrients such as vitamin K and B vitamins and things that we need in our body, and short-chain fatty acids, which are another really important thing that actually feed the gut cells themselves. Hey Satch, hey Andrew, hey Lee, thanks for joining, fellas. If you have any questions, just ask as we go along. Sometimes I don't look, but I'll answer it shortly after. So beneficial bacteria produce things in our food, produce things from our food, particularly cellulose, and create beneficial things. Whereas the pathogenic species of bacteria will often eat sugars and things like that in our food and convert them into toxins and inflammatory things that irritate the gut wall and toxins that irritate your system. So the gut is incredibly important for this reason. It has this microbiome which has 2 kilograms of bacteria that often will contain more bacterial cells than we have human cells that produce all sorts of metabolites and neurotransmitters and even hormones. It's got an endocrine function as well. I'm not in the best flow today. I've got to get together. So the gut bacteria in a healthy gut environment will produce things that we need in our gut. Pathogenic species will produce inflammatory byproducts that irritate the gut wall. When we have an irritated gut wall, if there's inflammation, you have the enterocytes, which are the cells of the gut wall, which usually allow digested food to pass through, and will also secrete enzymes to help break down food in the gut. When they get inflamed, they start to shrink and create spaces between those cells. You then have what's called leaky gut, whereas there are spaces and whole food particles can pass through the gut wall into your bloodstream, which is when you start to have food intolerances and autoimmune disorders and things like that. The gut has its own brain. It's called the enteric nervous system. There are as many or more neurons in the gut brain than there are in your spinal cord, which is massive. So not nearly as many as your brain, but your head brain, but still a lot of neurons. So there's a lot of processing that goes on here. And the gut is completely capable of functioning on its own without the brain. So when all is going well and things are functioning well, the gut can do everything that it needs to using its enteric nervous system without control from the brain. There is connection to the brain through the vagus nerve, and there's about 90% of the communication happening from the gut to the brain. So the gut communicates to the brain a lot more than the brain communicates to the gut. Hey Keish, hey Mauricio, welcome guys. Thanks for joining. I keep getting distracted. So we have, in an unhealthy gut, as I just mentioned, you start to get a leaky gut, where whole food particles are passing through the gut wall and creating autoimmune things or allergies and stuff like that. There's a lot of communication happening both ways, particularly from the gut to the brain. It's interesting that 95% of our serotonin and 50% of dopamine, and I don't know what number, but I'm pretty sure pretty much all of our neurotransmitters are produced and or stored in the gut. So if you think about this, the neurotransmitters are what help our brain and our nervous system function optimally. Serotonin is known as the happiness neurotransmitter. So when we have low levels of serotonin, we tend to feel sluggish and dull and whatnot. Dopamine is to do with, as part of our reward system, when the way that we reward ourselves internally, or the way that the brain reward gives us the feeling of being rewarded. So there's a lot of research now that suggests or points to just the important connection between the gut and the brain, and between the gut and our moods, and between the gut and mental, emotional problems or dysfunction or anything. Hey, Callie. Yeah, exactly. So we used to teach workshops on this back at Origin of Energy many years ago. Now everybody's talking about it, and I'm really enjoying winter time, because winter is when you can make broths and stuff. So bone broth and collagen is really good for your gut, and I'll get to that stuff later. But good to have you here, Callie. Hey, Josh, good to have you guys here too. So huge part of neurotransmission and neurotransmitters are produced in the gut. If your gut is unhealthy, you're not producing optimal serotonin, you're not producing optimal dopamine, you're going to feel it emotionally. You're going to feel sluggish, or you're going to feel depressed, or you might have trouble concentrating. We know now that most mental, emotional things, most neurodevelopmental disorders, which are things like childhood autism, ADHD, ADD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, all have their root in the gut and gut health. And so do neurodegenerative disorders, which are things that happen in the elderly, like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and stuff like that. Interestingly, recent studies show that when the enteric nervous system, the gut brain, is analyzed, they see the same changes that happen to the head brain of people with Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, but 20 years before. So the gut bacteria and the health of your gut is affecting the neurons in your gut a long time before it's affecting your brain, but you don't start to see the Alzheimer's or Parkinson's symptoms happen for 20 years time. So take care of your gut. So if you imagine the gut and the microbiome is like this ecosystem, you know, there are thousands of different species in there that all live in harmony together. And like any ecosystem, it needs diversity. One of the problems we see nowadays, and particularly in people living in cities and in the Western world, is a lack of diversity. When we compare the gut species in like my gut compared to someone living in a hunter-gatherer society, like there are a group called the Hadza in Africa. They've done a lot of research on it, and they have a 40 to 50% greater diversity than what we have in our guts. And there are a few reasons for that. One is antibiotic use. This is the big one. Antibiotics kill everything. Antibiotics don't really discriminate about things. So if you take antibiotics even once, you're going to kill off a great amount of that diversity. In fact, I think when they look at what happens after antibiotics, it's about a third of people will recover diversity completely in 2 weeks. A third of people will take 6 months to recover that diversity, and a third of people won't recover the gut diversity at all. And that's just one time using antibiotics. You think back some people that I speak to have had antibiotics 20 or 30 times in their life and never been given a probiotic to replenish the bacteria living there afterwards. So antibiotics are huge. Stress is the other huge one. When we're stressed, the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight branch of your nervous system, inhibits the parasympathetic nervous system, which stimulates digestion, which stimulates peristalsis, which is the movement of the smooth muscle around your small and large intestines. It'll inhibit the secretion of hydrochloric acid that allows fungus and bacteria and stuff to get deeper into your gut. Inhibit secretion of pancreatic enzymes and the enzymes secreted by the enterocytes, the cells in the small intestine. So it's stress changes the environment that those bacteria need, which is huge. The healthiest guts in our society come or are found in people who were born vaginally, who were breastfed, who were allowed to play with dogs as kids, who were allowed to play with the dirt as kids, and who had pet dogs. I find that really interesting because we are generally taught that it's good to stay away from bacteria, stay away from dirt and germs, and we shouldn't be going near any of that stuff. Whereas the gut actually thrives on those kind of things. So if you're an adult, as I am, and most of you probably are, and if you're through childhood, your gut has already had its own journey. There is still a lot of things that you can do. If you might have had antibiotics a lot throughout your life and change that diversity. You might have dysfunction or not. If you're having gut problems, there's obvious gut symptoms, which obviously stem from the gut, which are things like bloating, flatulence, burping and belching, and indigestion, and food intolerances are another one, where you eat certain foods and you start to react. That's kind of secondary to the leaky gut that I mentioned earlier, where there's inflammation in the gut wall, and you have the spaces between the enterocytes in your gut that are allowing full particles of food to pass through. So in a healthy gut, say you eat a piece of bread and it gets broken down into the starches and simple sugars. The starches get broken down into simple sugars, and the proteins get broken down into amino acids. Whereas if you have a leaky gut, you have like a whole piece of gluten passing through into your bloodstream. If you eat a piece of chicken, rather than it being broken down into the amino acids that make up the chicken. Hey Haley, I love you, hon. Thank you. Then you have like a whole piece of chicken pass through. So then your body puts up an immune response to gluten, or an immune response to chicken, and that's a food intolerance. So food intolerances are a less obvious symptom of poor gut health. As I mentioned, any mental, emotional stuff. So fogginess is a big one. If your gut is constantly pumping toxins into your system because you've got an uneven balance or an uneven ratio that's beneficial to pathogenic species in your gut, you're likely to feel foggy. ADHD and ADD symptoms will come secondary to a dysbiosis or an imbalance in the gut due to the neurotransmitter function and storage there. Any kind of immune disorders can be related to poor gut health. Immune system, autoimmune things, any kind of mental, emotional stuff, all can come from the gut. So there's a lot you can do if that is you. So there are a few steps. The first thing is that gut bacteria, the pathogenic species, love sugars and starches. So if you cut out sugar and starch from your diet, you're already starving or keeping some of the food supply away from those pathogenic species. So things like potato and sweet potato, bread, any kinds of grains, sugar, even sweet fruit and stuff like that, can feed pathogenic species in your gut. The second thing is you can take like natural antibiotic, antibacterial, antifungal things that will help to kill stuff off as well. So coconut oil is a good one. It's antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal. Oregano oil is a really strong one. Be careful with oregano oil. It is super strong. I burnt the skin of my leg when I was in India because I got bitten by a dog and I put oregano oil on the bite to stop it getting infected, and it actually, like, I had the straight oil and it burnt the whole side of my leg. It was worse than the dog bite. Oregano oil, thieves oil. You can just make ginger tea, or garlic is another one. You know, ginger tea, just grate up some ginger, put that in some hot water, and or let it simmer for a little bit and drink it regularly. Garlic, just, you know, really finely diced garlic that you can have with food, or you can just have a garlic shot. You know, you can cut up a clove of garlic, have just a drop of olive oil on it and a pinch of salt, and just chew it up and swallow it. That's really antibacterial. So you're starving the pathogenic species. You are putting things in there to kill them. Those things are going to kill everything pretty much. So you want to also add good bacteria back in. You can do that now through eating kombucha, yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut. You can, you know, buy probiotic tablets. I think when you ferment things, like all the lacto-fermented yogurt and kefir and stuff, particularly if you're using raw milk, which already has a lot of bacterial species in it, you get a much greater diversity of species than you would if you buy like an Inner Health Plus tablet that has 2 or 3 or 4 species in it or something like that. The other advantage when you're fermenting things yourself, when you're fermenting yogurt and kefir and stuff like that, you can ferment it for a lot longer than you would with store-bought yogurt and kefir and get much higher, higher numbers of those species in there. And the same when you make sauerkraut yourself, if you wild ferment it without adding a culture, you're getting quite a good diversity, and you can ferment it for a lot longer than you would the ones that you buy at the store. So add good stuff back in. There are steps you can take to help heal your gut wall. So that is just talking about the diversity of the microbiome. The gut wall itself will love 2 things. One is collagen that happens in bone broth. Josh had chicken soup for brekkie, which would have been a home-cooked chicken stock, which is full of collagen, full of type 2 collagen, which is really healing for the gut wall. Collagen is what gut tissue is made out of. Collagen is what all our connective tissues are made out of. Your skin, your fingernails, your eyes, your hair, your tendons and ligaments and fascia are all collagen. And so when you boil the bones or connective tissue of pasture-raised animals, then you're breaking that collagen down into a liquid that you can then drink, and it helps to heal your own tissues. Keisha, Rickard, can you get collagen from vegetarian sources? Not that I'm aware of. You know, I don't think so, but you can. Your body will make collagen. It's not an essential nutrient by any means. Your body will make it. But the question is, how much energy does your body have to use to make it from plant sources? When you drink a bone broth, it is really only one step away from the form that's needed. So particularly for healing your gut wall, those gut cells don't really have to do anything to use that collagen. People buy things that are parts of collagen pharmacies for joint problems. One is glucosamine sulfate. The other one is chondroitin sulfate, which they make from shark cartilage. Which again, it's many steps away from the way that your body will use collagen. So it's not as bioavailable, meaning you need to have a lot more of it in order to make the same amount of collagen. And you're having your body's having to go through a lot of processes and use a lot of energy to create that collagen. So you want to have collagen in a form that is really bioavailable to you, especially if your gut is damaged. If you're already suffering from a dysbiosis and an inflamed gut, then plant foods are often really hard to digest. Like cellulose and fiber is quite hard to break down and can really irritate a gut wall. It's definitely needed. So that's something I didn't mention before, that with the gut bacteria, the good bacteria love cellulose. They love fiber. It's a prebiotic. It's what feeds those things. But sometimes if your gut is damaged already, it can be quite irritating as well. So the answer to your question, Keish, is I don't think so. Not that I'm aware of anyway. And you can make collagen within your body from plant foods, but it depends on the health of your body as to whether you're going to do that, whether you're going to be able to do that. That's the thing with animal foods. They're not, they're already very bioavailable and nutrient-dense sources of different proteins and amino acids and fats and stuff. The second thing the gut wall loves is saturated fat, so particularly medium chain fats, and I think the longer chain ones too, but like ghee is your gut's best friend. Ghee is clarified butter, and it's a medium chain fat and a short and a long, I think. It has a lot of different stuff in there. Saturated fat from the beef that you cook with the bones as well is going to be really healing and soothing for the gut wall as well. So you want to you have those steps. You want to starve them. You want to put new stuff back in there. That's known as weeding and seeding. If you imagine your gut like a garden, you first weed, you pull out all the old stuff by starving them, by taking oregano oil and coconut oil and everything. You then seed by putting the good probiotic stuff back in there. That's the kefir, yogurt, kombucha, sauerkraut, fermented vegetables, etc. And then you want to heal the gut wall and feed those bacteria. So feed them with the beneficial, feed them with all the prebiotics and fiber and stuff like that. But so, yeah, this is like the perfect time of year for making broths and stocks as well. I've got one on the stove pretty much all the time at the moment, because broth is like, it's not just good for your gut, it's good for all your connective tissues. I pretty much get everybody that's got any type of injury or any kind of pain eating lots of broth, regardless of the status of their gut. So again, because that collagen is the most bioavailable form of collagen, that is what you need to repair joint tissues and ligaments and tendons and fascia and stuff like that. Glycine is the primary amino acid, or one of the main amino acids found in collagen as well, and it's an inhibitory amino acid, meaning it helps slow down signaling. So particularly if there's aberrant signaling like there is in those stimulatory neurodevelopmental disorders like ADHD and stuff, the glycine in broth can really help calm those kids down. And also for people who are in pain, chronic pain is a hypersensitization state of the central nervous system, and the glycine in the broth will help to slow that down because of its inhibitory nature. So if anyone's sick, in pain, injured or anything, get broth into you. If anyone's got any kind of emotional stuff going on, or problems with depression, anxiety, ADHD, ADD, autism, schizophrenia, Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease, all those brain things, we access them through the gut. The gut is our biggest and most readily available access point to our body's biochemistry and physiology. So it makes sense to have a healthy gut. And just think, if you were born vaginally, breastfed fed, never had antibiotics, never had stress. You played in the dirt when you were a kid, you had a dog and played with your dog all the time, then you might be okay. But if you haven't had all those things, you've probably got a bit of a gut dysfunction. I know I had antibiotics a lot as a kid, and it took me a lot of years to heal my gut. I remember all through high school I was diagnosed with ADD and prescribed Ritalin and dexamphetamine and stuff, and I always did have trouble concentrating, and I always had this brain fog. Remember, I used to just sit there like staring out into space for minutes at a time, and that stopped when I started to do gut healing. That problem concentrating is just not a thing for me anymore, unless I'm tired. So that's my little gut talk for today. If anyone has any more questions, shoot them through. Thanks for joining me, everyone. If not, I look forward to seeing everybody another time. If anyone's interested, I'm running a seminar tonight on back pain. It's just a 2-hour seminar here in the studio at Wise Moves in St. Leonard's. It's free. It's for anyone with any kind of acute or chronic back pain. It's a 2-hour workshop going through all the different ways that back pain all the different mechanisms for back pain, such as like mechanical or the different lifestyle factors, nutritional factors, mental, emotional factors that can contribute to back pain, particularly if it's chronic. So yeah, thanks, Keish. Yeah, I wish you could do it. It's a bit of a distance for you, unfortunately. We'll do another one together soon, a seminar. So thanks, guys. Have a beautiful day. I'll see you all soon. Ciao.